My husband was cooking dinner when his phone buzzed on the counter. Garlic was sizzling in the pan. Music played softly from his speaker, and for a moment, everything looked almost perfect from the outside. I guess we looked like one of those couples people envy, stable, calm, routine in a comforting way, but behind closed doors, the truth was far different, even if I didn't know it yet. The screen lit up again. I wasn't trying to snoop, I really wasn't, but the phone was right there, face up, and the message preview flashed bright enough for me to read it without even moving. I miss you. No emoji, no jokes, just that. The name wasn't one I didn't recognize, it was his coworker, a woman he mentioned casually, the way you mention a printer at work or someone who always forgets their badge. Nothing important, nothing threatening, at least that's what I told myself for months. My heart didn't race at first, that came later. At first, there was just this strange stillness, like my body was waiting for my brain to catch up. He was standing with his back to me, humming, stirring the sauce like nothing in the world could touch him. I picked up his phone. I didn't unlock it, I didn't scroll, I didn't dig, I just stared at that message, and suddenly 100 small moments lined up in my head like dominoes. Late meetings, sudden overtime, the way he'd tilt his screen away without realizing it, the emotional distance I kept blaming on stress. One wrong decision, one moment, that's all it took to change everything. Before I could talk myself out of it, before fear could convince me to put the phone down and pretend I never saw anything, I did something I didn't even know I was capable of. I replied, "Come over." I set the phone back exactly where it was and leaned against the counter, my hands shaking just enough that I had to curl my fingers into fists. He turned around then, smiling at me. "Dinner's almost ready," he said, like we were still the same people we'd been an hour ago. I smiled back. Inside, something had already cracked. What happened next changed everything, and no one saw it coming. The reply came faster than I expected. "Are you sure?" 2 words, that was it. No confusion, no wrong number.
No hesitation.
My stomach dropped. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Those 2 words already told me everything my husband hadn't said in months. He plated the food, kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted wine. I watched his hands move, confident, relaxed, familiar, and wondered how long he'd been able to live 2 lives this smoothly. From the outside, he looked unstoppable, a good husband, a reliable man, but behind closed doors, the truth was far different. I forced myself to sit at the table, forced myself to eat. Every bite tasted like cardboard, every smile felt rehearsed. His phone buzzed again. This time he noticed. He glanced at the screen too quickly, picked it up too fast, turned it face down without answering. "You expecting someone?" I asked, keeping my voice light. He shrugged. "Work stuff." I nodded, like I believed him, like my chest wasn't tightening with every second. After dinner, he said he needed to take a shower. He kissed my forehead again, longer this time, and for the first time in years, the gesture felt wrong, like a performance. The bathroom door closed. The water started running. I picked up his phone again. A new message lit up the screen. "I'll be there soon."
Soon.
I felt my pulse in my throat. I didn't know what soon meant. 10 minutes? 30? An hour? I didn't know what I was preparing for, only that something was about to collide with my life head-on. That's when a memory surfaced. Uninvited, sharp. Years ago, my mother had told me a story I never understood at the time, about how she once ignored a woman's phone call that came late at night, thinking it was nothing, how she chose peace over suspicion, how that single choice cost her a decade of her life. I remember her saying, "The worst lies aren't the ones they tell you, they're the ones you help them tell themselves." I stood up and locked the front door. Not dramatically, not angrily, just deliberately. Then I did something else that surprised even me. I texted back, "Use the side entrance." I had no side entrance, but whoever was on the other end didn't question it. Another pause. Then, okay. My hands were cold now. I sat on the couch and waited, listening to the water running upstairs, the normal sounds of a normal house that was about to stop being normal forever. That's when my phone buzzed, my phone. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but I think we need to talk." I stared at the screen. Before I could respond, another message followed. I was married to him first. The room seemed to tilt. Parallel stories, parallel lives, running beside mine without me ever seeing them. I typed back with trembling fingers. Who are you? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then the reply came. The woman he promised he'd leave you for, and never did. Upstairs, the shower turned off. Downstairs, someone knocked softly at the door. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying and clear. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about a pattern, a cycle. A man who didn't just lie, he designed lies. I stood between 2 doors, one leading to the truth I invited inside, and another about to open behind me. And I had no idea which one would destroy my life first. I didn't move right away. The knock came again, soft, patient, not the knock of someone afraid of being caught, the knock of someone who believed they belonged here. Upstairs, I heard the bathroom door open. The water stopped, footsteps, my husband humming again, like nothing in the world had shifted. My phone buzzed in my hand. Unknown number. Please don't open the door yet. My heart skipped. Me why? 3 dots, then nothing. Then another message. Unknown number. Because if she sees him before you understand who he really is, you'll never get the full truth.
She.
So the coworker was real, and she wasn't alone in this story. Another memory surfaced, something I had buried because it never quite made sense at the time. 2 years ago, a woman had commented on one of my photos. Nothing flirtatious, just beautiful kitchen. I remembered thinking it was strange. She didn't follow me, we had no mutuals. When I clicked her profile later, it was private, the comment was gone. At the time, I shrugged it off. Now, my chest tightened. Upstairs, my husband called out. Did someone knock? No, I answered quickly, too quickly. He didn't question it. That hurt more than it should have. The knocking stopped. Instead, my phone rang. I answered before fear could stop me. Hello. Her voice was calm, too calm. I'm standing outside your house, she said, but I won't come in unless you tell me to. I swallowed. Why did you text him?
A pause.
Because he told me you two were separated, she said, and because tonight was supposed to be the night he finally told you. I laughed quietly, bitterly. He was cooking me dinner. Another pause, longer this time. That's new, she said. Something in her tone shifted, confusion, maybe, or realization. Listen, she continued. My name doesn't matter yet. What matters is that this isn't the first house I've stood outside of because of him. That sentence landed heavier than anything else. How many? I asked. She didn't answer directly. Do you know where he was last Thanksgiving? My stomach dropped. He said he was with his brother, I replied. She exhaled sharply. That's what he told me too. The sound of footsteps on the stairs behind me made my spine go rigid. He appeared in the doorway, towel around his neck, smiling. Who are you talking to? I looked at him. Really looked. The relaxed shoulders, the familiar face, the man I thought I knew so well. No one, I said. Behind me, through the window, I saw a shadow move away from the porch. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I'll wait in my car. You deserve answers first. I nodded. Even though she couldn't see me, he leaned against the doorframe. You okay? You seem off. I thought of all the times I'd asked him that exact question. Do you love me? I asked suddenly. He blinked. Smiled. Of course. Too easy. Then why does another woman think tonight is the night you leave me? The color drained from his face. For a split second, just a fraction of a moment, the mask slipped. What woman? He asked, but his voice cracked on the word. That was all I needed. Before I could say more, my phone buzzed again. This time, a photo came through. A picture of my husband, sitting at a different kitchen table, different walls, different woman standing behind him, her hands on his shoulders. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. Another message followed. Unknown number. There's more about his brother, about the money, about why he never lets you see the accounts. My ears rang. Because suddenly, the affair wasn't the most confusing part anymore. It was the finances, the secrecy, the way he'd always insisted on handling everything important. From the outside, We looked stable, comfortable, safe. But behind closed doors, something far bigger had been unfolding. And I was just starting to realize I wasn't the first wife in this story. I wasn't even the second. I was just the one who finally answered the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone. I just stared at the photo until the room felt too small to hold all the lies pressing in on me. My husband followed my gaze. His eyes landed on the screen, and for the first time since I met him, he didn't try to explain. He didn't deny it. He just whispered, "It's not what it looks like." That was when I knew the parallel story, the other woman, the other kitchen, the other promises, was real, and worse. It was finished. There was nothing left to uncover there. No mystery, no misunderstanding. She wasn't lying.
He was.
I turned the phone toward him. "How many?" His jaw tightened. "That's not." "How many?" I repeated. He looked away. Silence stretched between us, thick and humiliating. "3, he finally said, "including you. 3 lives. 3 versions of himself. 3 women who thought they were building something real." I felt strangely calm, detached, like my body had decided to protect me by stepping outside the moment. "Get dressed," I said. "We're done talking tonight." He stared at me. "You're not kicking me out." "I'm not," I replied. "I'm letting you leave." He opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew when he'd lost. Upstairs, he packed quietly, no shouting, no pleading, just the sound of a life being folded into a suitcase. When the front door closed behind him, I sank onto the couch and finally allowed myself to breathe. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that." "Me, neither did you." She paused before replying. "Unknown number. There's something else you should know. This is where my story ends, but yours doesn't." "Me? What do you mean?" Her message came slower this time, heavier. "Unknown number. He isn't just cheating, he's hiding money, a lot of it." That stopped me cold. She continued. "I only figured it out because he asked me to open an account in my name, said it was temporary. Said it was for taxes." My chest tightened. That explained so much. The locked laptop. The statements I was too stressed to look at. The way he flinched whenever I mentioned the future. "Unknown number." I said no. That's when he disappeared from my life. I stared at the wall, suddenly seeing the outline of a much bigger picture. "Thank you," I typed, and I meant it. Her final message came a minute later. "Be careful. He doesn't panic when he's caught cheating. He panics when money is involved." And just like that, the parallel story closed, not with drama but with warning. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because the next morning I received a call that had nothing to do with my husband and everything to do with my family. The number belonged to a law firm I didn't recognize. "Is this Mrs. Carter?" the woman asked. "Yes. We're calling regarding a trust fund registered under your mother's maiden name." My breath caught. "My mother passed away 5 years ago." "I know," she said gently. "That's why we're calling now. The trust was designed to activate only if certain conditions were met." "What conditions?" There was a pause. "Infidelity," she said, "and financial fraud." The room went silent. Suddenly, the affair wasn't the center of the story anymore. It was just the door that led me into something older, deeper, planned long before I ever met my husband. A new story was beginning, one my mother had quietly prepared for. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something unexpected rise in my chest. Not fear. Not anger.
Control.
The lawyer's voice echoed in my head long after the call ended. A trust fund, activated by infidelity and financial fraud. I sat at the kitchen table where my husband had cooked dinner the night before, staring at the chair he used to occupy, trying to understand how far back this story really went. My mother had been quiet most of her life, careful, observant. She asked questions she never explained and kept documents she never showed anyone. I used to think it was anxiety. Now I wondered if it was preparation. I drove to the address the law firm sent me later that afternoon, a low brick building, unremarkable, like it didn't want attention. Inside, the air smelled like paper and old wood. The lawyer slid a folder across the table toward me. Inside were dates, names, bank movements. And my husband's name appeared more than once. He didn't know about the trust, the lawyer said, but your mother suspected he'd eventually show his hand. She designed it as a leverage. So she knew, I whispered. She didn't know who, he corrected gently. She knew what kind of man would try. That parallel story, my mother's quiet foresight, her silent protection, closed in that moment. She hadn't failed me. She had been guarding me in ways I only understood too late. I left the building feeling heavier, but also strangely steadier. One truth had settled into place. Then my phone rang again. This time it was my husband. I almost didn't answer, almost. "What do you want?" I asked. His voice sounded different, not confident, tight, controlled. "You talked to a lawyer." I smiled without humor. Funny how you never panic about women. Silence. "You don't understand what you're stepping into," he said. "There are people involved." "People?" I repeated. "Or accounts." He exhaled sharply. "This isn't just me." That's when I realized the affair story was over, the money story was ending too, and something else, something darker, was trying to pull itself into the light. "I want a divorce," I said calmly, "and full transparency." He laughed then, a short, brittle sound. "You won't get either." The call ended. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I went through old boxes in the closet, the ones I'd never unpacked after my mother died. At the bottom of one box, wrapped in a scarf that still smelled faintly like her perfume, I found a small notebook. Inside were names I didn't recognize, and one word repeated over and over in the margins: wolves. The next morning, a woman knocked on my door. She introduced herself as a private investigator. "I was hired by your mother," she said quietly, "years ago." My stomach dropped. "She told me to find you if anything ever happened, or if you ever started asking the wrong questions." I stepped aside to let her in. That's when I understood. The affair was just the surface. The money was the mechanism. But the real story, the next one, was about a network of men who moved quietly, protected each other, and fed on trust. And somehow, my husband had always been closer to them than he ever was to me. As the investigator opened her folder and began to speak, I realized something chilling and clear. I wasn't discovering the truth anymore. I had stepped into a game that had started long before I knew I was playing. The investigator didn't rush her words. That alone told me how bad it was. She spread the documents across my kitchen table, the same table where my husband used to sip coffee and complain about work, the same place where I signed papers I never fully read because I trusted him. "These men," she said, tapping several names, "they call themselves wolves, not officially internally." I felt my throat go dry. "They're not a gang," she continued. "They're not criminals in the way people expect. They're accountants, consultants, lawyers, husbands. They marry women with assets, inheritances, family property. They embed themselves quietly, then they move money, slowly, legally enough to avoid suspicion." My heart started pounding. "And my husband?" I asked. She looked me straight in the eyes. "He's not the leader, but he's not a victim either." Something clicked then. Every late night, every excuse, every time he insisted on handling the finances, every time he dismissed my questions as stress or paranoia. "He was preparing," I whispered. She nodded. "Yes, and your mother realized it before he finished." That was when the weight of everything crashed down on me at once. My mother hadn't just suspected infidelity. She had suspected infiltration. She had built safeguards not because she didn't trust men, but because she understood systems. The investigator slid one last document toward me. "A recording," she said, "from 3 nights ago." My blood ran cold. 3 nights ago, when he was still here? Yes. I pressed play. His voice filled the room. "Calm, confident, familiar." "She doesn't know about the secondary accounts yet," he said. "The trust is a complication, but we can neutralize it. Once the divorce starts, she'll be too emotional to think clearly." Another voice responded, older, sharper. "Don't rush it. Wolves don't sprint, we wait." I felt sick. That was the moment fear finally gave way to clarity. They weren't reacting to me anymore. They were moving against me. My phone buzzed violently on the table, making me flinch. A text from my husband. "We need to talk tonight alone." I looked at the investigator. "He knows." She nodded. "Yes, and that means the climax is here. They only confront when control is slipping." I took a deep breath. My hands were steady now. "Good," I said, "because I'm done being quiet." That night I agreed to meet him. Not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood the truth. From the outside, he thought he was still winning. But behind closed doors, every move he made was already being watched. And this time, I wasn't the one walking into the dark alone. We met in the same house he once called ours. No police, no shouting, no witnesses. Exactly the way he wanted it. He stood by the window with his back to me, far too calm for a man whose carefully built life was about to collapse. "You look confident," he said without turning around. "Most women cry at this point. Most women don't find out their husbands built entire double lives." I replied, "You picked the wrong one." He smiled, the same smile he wore the night his coworker texted, "I miss you," while he was cooking dinner like nothing was wrong. "You really think you won?" he asked. "You don't have proof, just suspicion, feelings." I pulled my phone from my pocket and placed it on the table between us. He didn't touch it. He didn't need to. His jaw tightened just slightly, because he already knew. The messages, the recordings, the bank transfers routed through her name, the second phone hidden behind the pantry wall, the email thread labeled Project Haven, the one he forgot to delete, and the video, the one my daughter had recorded without meaning to. Her tablet had been propped up on the counter that night, still recording while he laughed on the phone and said the words that ended everything. "She doesn't suspect a thing. Once the divorce is final, it's all mine." I watched his reflection in the window as the realization reached him. Not fear. Not guilt. Calculation. "You showed this to the lawyer," he said quietly. "I showed it to the judge." That's when he finally turned around. And for the first time in years, I saw it, real panic. "You think this ends me?" he snapped. "People like me don't fall, we adapt." I stepped closer. "People like you always forget one thing." "What's that?" "The person you underestimate is usually the one already holding the knife." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten him. I didn't need to. Because the next sound in the house wasn't my voice. It was the door opening. And the footsteps behind me. The coworker stepped inside. The woman he thought was loyal. The woman who thought she was loved. She looked at him like she'd never seen him before. "You told me she was crazy," she said. "You told me she was lying." I didn't look back. I didn't have to. Because in that moment, his two parallel lives finally collided. And there was nowhere left to hide. The divorce wasn't loud. The trial wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, efficient, devastating. He lost the house, the money, the job that required moral integrity, and the thing he valued most, control. The coworker testified. The accounts were frozen. The judge didn't smile when the video played. My daughter sat beside me, holding my hand. When it was over, she leaned in and whispered, "Mommy, are we safe now?" "Yes," I told her. "We are." Months later, I still think about that night in the kitchen. About how close I came to believing the lie. About how one text changed everything. And how sometimes the moment you stop being afraid is the moment they finally lose.